Whoa, buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
Here's my rifle, this is my gun, this is for fighting, this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday, your chance to sound off on issues of a 2A nature right here on the Michael Dukes Show. Good morning and welcome to the program. It is just another beautiful, well, it's a wet day down here in Homer from on top of the world. 34 degrees here outside the old radio ranch, and we are loving it. Christmas tree lighting last night. Santa Claus arrived on the fire truck, and the kids were all lined up, and it was it was a heck of a time in small town Alaska last night. Just a beautiful day, and we're glad you guys are here to join us on this, the best day of the week, that day where we get a chance to talk about the issues that are important to us. Now, the rest of the week, obviously, all the issues are important, but this is that one day a week where we get a chance to where we talk about the Second Amendment and 2A issues and gun rights and why they are important to us. Now, today, it's just you and me, together forever. Hey. We're going to cover a lot of the stories that are going on out there, but I also have opened up the phone lines so that we can so that we can have conversation. And so let's open that phone line right now, 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864. It's been a couple weeks since we've had a Firearms Friday. And so I thought I would just open up the I thought we would just open up the phones first things first and allow you guys to have a say in the conversation for today. We got a lot of stuff to cover. There's a lot of things going on out there, and you know, I would say post-election we're all still feeling pretty good about the state of the Second Amendment right now, and I hope we're right. I hope that we are right with the control of the House and control of the Senate and control of the presidency, all in Republican hands. We hope that end runs and attacks on the Second Amendment will be minimal, at least for the next 2 years, or at least easily beaten back. Let's put it that way. And so we're going to continue our discussion today on all the stories that are going on out there and everything else. And yes, Anthony, we might talk about the crocodile/alligator fight here in Alaska. You will not believe this story. You will not believe this story. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Anyway, so lots of things to talk about today. And of course, as always, we will finish up the program this morning with our friend Willie Waffle from wafflemovies.com. And we'll hang out with him and get a rundown of some of the entertainment news that's happening out there as well. Don't forget, you can join us as always on not only on the phones 319-527-3864, but you can also be part of the chat room experience by going over to Facebook or YouTube or Rumble. I think Facebook has always got the most people watching. I think that's in part due to the fact that it's got the best kind of chat functionality out there. But you can go to facebook.com/Michael Duke Show/live, and you'll find Michael Duke's Show, 2 S's in there, Dukes and Show. Facebook.com/Michael Duke Show/live if you want to join the conversation in the chat room and hang out with the 30 or 40 people that we've got out there being part of it today. So thank you guys all for coming on board. Yeah, we're going to talk a lot. We've got to talk about this case of Mexico, the country of Mexico, suing Smith & Wesson for $10 billion. We're going to talk about that court case. We're going to talk about the court case that has failed in California. Smith & Wesson was facing another lawsuit in California that has now been reversed and dismissed. We'll talk about that as well. We will talk about a lot. We'll talk about the failure of the laws. Because all we ever hear, and this is one of the reasons why we do Firearms Friday, just FYI, is because all we ever hear from the anti-gun crowd is that, well, if we had just had this one more law, then everything would just magically go away. Everything would just magic. I mean, it would just happen. It would just, don't worry about it. It will go. In fact, there was a question that was asked of the former mayor of Uvalde, Texas, who has now been elected to the Texas House. And it was this loaded question. And the question from the audience was this loaded question on gun control, which you can imagine is probably an issue of interest in Uvalde, after the post-Uvalde school shooting. But a member of the audience got up and said that, quote, access to firearms for use for people under 21 is the main reason and the only cause that these acts of violence ended up happening. So It's the only cause that it caused this violence was access to firearms. It wasn't because Johnny was a thug. It wasn't because Johnny was a criminal by any strange stretch. It was only because the access to the firearms is the only cause that these acts of violence ended up happening. Now, if that's not a loaded question, I don't know what is. Because it's very obvious. We saw this in England, and if you've never seen the video on YouTube from a fella who goes by the name, his YouTube channel is called Amidst the Noise. He had a video, and this video is probably 8 or 9 years old now, but it's still a fascinating thing to watch because he talks about the correlation between the gun control issues in England and then the spike in overall violence, in criminal violence in England after that gun control issue was supposedly put to bed, and the incredible spike in violent crime that had nothing to do with firearms, had nothing to do whatsoever with I guess you could make the argument that maybe it had to do with firearms because the average citizen wasn't able to defend themselves anymore. So you could argue that maybe it had something to do there. You had a lot more disarmed, unarmed people unable to defend themselves, and maybe that could explain a part of the spike in violent crime. But if you have a few minutes and you want to watch something very interesting, you should swing over to that channel. I don't think he's done much. That video got millions of views because it was very thought-provoking. We broke it down on the channel here on the show probably, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years ago. And it was just an amazing analysis of that. So yeah, if you want to go out to Amidst the Noise on YouTube, I believe the video is I watched it again a year or so ago, and it was still up there at that point. But that's the thing. The presupposition that somehow it is simply the access to firearms is the main reason and the only cause that these acts of violence end up happening is completely false. People have been doing bad things since the beginning. Cain killed Abel with a rock, right? There was no gun control, and there was only a handful of people at the time, right? But Cain killed Abel. People have been doing bad things forever. And simple access to a tool or a weapon or a bludgeon or a rock or a knife or a sword or a car, none of those things were the proximate cause of the actions of these people, right? This was them there was criminals being criminals. It was bad people doing bad things. How many times have we seen the interviews with some forlorn mother who talks about her son or daughter, usually son, and I mean, if we're going to be honest demographically, about how her young boy was shot and killed in a home invasion, right? And they say, well, that homeowner had no right. They shouldn't take the law into their own hands. And then they go on to say, my Johnny was a good boy. He was on the football squad, and he was valedictorian, or he was this, or he was that, or he walked puppies across the street on Saturdays and everything else. And it was only after he got a hold of that gun that he became, like, again, it's some kind of totemic item that infects somebody with the urge to do violence, right? A gun is a tool. A gun is like any other, you put a carving knife up on the kitchen table or on the counter, and it doesn't carve a turkey on its own. It doesn't do anything. You could leave a firearm sitting on a coffee table for 15 years while the house rotted down around it. Nothing would happen. Oh, my poor Johnny, he was such a good... No, Johnny was a thug. Johnny had those tendencies, and if anything could be ascribed to the gun, is that Johnny now felt emboldened to go out and do those things that he's been wanting to do in his heart of hearts. But that doesn't mean that it is the fault of the firearm or anything else. But see, that's how things have been portrayed. That's how things have been portrayed in this country for years. And quite honestly, it's one of the reasons why Firearms Friday came into existence, because we see this in the news media, the talking heads and their conversations about how this stuff works, in the entertainment industry, the television shows, the movies. I mean, I've told this story many times, but I remember watching Lethal Weapon 2, which, again, the irony of this is not lost on me. Lethal Weapon 2, Mel Gibson, Danny Glover, Joe Pesci, all the people. It's a Joel Silver movie and everything else. And the entire movie is peppered with anti-gun rhetoric. They're standing in police, they're standing in what is supposedly a police department with anti-NRA pictures all over the wall, posters and things like that. And yet this is a movie that glorifies the gun violence, makes it into entertainment. And at the same time, they're preaching to us about how wrong it is that we as citizens would want to have guns. It's astonishing. It really is. But these are the kind of discussions that we need to have. And this mayor, I was just talking about, again, this mayor of Uvalde, who was asked this impossible question. And I thought he walked the line fairly well on this. So we're going to talk about that as well. We're also going to talk about the failure of those laws. There's a couple big stories about the failures of those laws and, excuse me, the success of those laws as well. Also, why I wouldn't want to live in Canada. Sorry. Why I would never want to live in Canada. They just had something come up here this week that just makes you go, wow. I mean, I thought Canada was a democracy of some kind, but apparently that is incorrect. And again, we'll take your phone calls. It looks like Fred from Rhode Island has jumped on the line, and we'll be talking with him here in just a moment as we get started. But we are up against the break. So let's get going, shall we? Get started. Do our thing. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We continue in just a moment with your phone calls, discussions, and more on this beautiful Firearms Friday. Back with more right after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. We are in the break right now. Fred is on the line, and he is waiting patiently over there. We'll be to you here in just a minute, Fred. Don't go anywhere. Mexico is suing Smith. A correction: Mexico was suing Smith and Wesson and has finally made its way to SCOTUS after being granted cert. Yeah, no, this is an interesting thing, and in fact, it has more. What is it? 18 amicus briefs filed to the Supreme Court this week on this thing. More than a half a dozen of them are coming from Second Amendment organizations. So this is an interesting and the arguments they're making make for a very interesting discussion, to say the least. So we're going to talk about that. Kathleen said that Facebook has become a pain in the butt for posting and getting the show to play. I didn't know that. I apologize. You can, again, always go to facebook.com/Michael Duke Show /live if you want to do it that way. Yeah, they're trying to bankrupt the firearms industry like Remington. Yeah, of course it was. All right. Terry says, parents need to own the way their kids act. I have one that was a turd as a kid, and he can be one now, and I own it. Well, I mean, because again, you can only do what you can do so much with a kid, right? I mean, sometimes they end up going their own way. That's how that's how it goes. That's how it goes. Jennifer might be one of the farthest away watching today. Morning, watching from Costa Rica. Good morning, Jennifer. Thanks for watching in today. Appreciate that. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. All right. So I think we're all right. And then Anthony says, "Hey, we need to talk about wherever in Alaska they're having alligator fights in the snow." I'm not trying to start the rumor we're cold Florida folks, but man, my wife and I were reading that story last night, and I was like, "What?" She's reading it to me, and I'm like, "What?" I mean, what? This story is insane. All right. It doesn't really have anything to do with firearms, but it's entertaining to say the least. Absolutely entertaining. Saw my dad in here this morning. Good morning, Dad. I love you, and I hope you and Mom are doing okay this morning. It's kind of nice when your dad checks in on you every morning, you know. Yeah. I need to know why, says Anthony, with 42 guns per person in this state by population, why were two dudes fighting with live crocodiles? I beg to differ. One was an alligator and one was a crocodile. Why were they dueling? I propose a duel to the death with live reptiles. I choose the crocodile. You can choose the alligator. Right? I mean, that was, yeah. Oh yeah, Terry's reading me this story, and I'm like, what? She goes, I mean, I feel like I kind of feel like I got out just in time. I feel like it was one of those things where you got out right before the attack at dawn kind of thing. That's what I feel like. That, I moved out of Wasilla just as the worm turned. So anyway, we're going to, we're going to get it. Yeah, I know exactly. They must have been a Pokemon fight, right? I summon you, crocodile. I summon you, alligator. And then they go to town. Which neither reptile won, Donna. Neither reptile. She says, which one won? Neither one. Newsflash, teaser. They both died. They both died. I can't. This is just, it's like Florida man, but it's Florida, Alaska man. It's cold Florida man. It's crazy stuff. Okay, we are ready to go. We are jumping into this and getting things put together. Let's jump into it. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Let's do this thing right now. Penguins? Yes.
What the hell's an assault weapon? What isn't? If I assault you with a penguin, doesn't that make it an assault weapon? Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
Yeah, I mean, assault penguins, they're a thing. I mean, right? I mean, they are a thing going on. And the assault penguins, I mean, that is the thing. But the worst part was, at least it wasn't an assault alligator or an assault crocodile. All right. Now, this has nothing to do with firearms, but we're going to get into this story here in just a little bit. It takes place out in Wasilla, and we're going to talk about the assault crocodile and the assault alligator. Why? Because we can. So we're gonna talk about that here in just a bit. Let's first go over to the phones. Fred is on the line from Rhode Island. Been a while since we've heard from Fred. Let's chat with him this morning and see what he has to say. Good morning, Fred. How are you?
Good morning, Michael. You brought up an interesting subject. I've been kind of following this one for a while. This Mexico lawsuit business.
Yeah.
I mean, these people are out of their minds. Sitting there trying to say that the firearms industry is responsible for all their problems down in Mexico. Not that the cartels would have anything to do with it, but yeah, I mean these people are just totally whacked out on this whole thing. But then again, I think they're being guided by the Mexican government right now is nothing more than a wet doormat for everybody else. And I mean, either globalist organizations or influences and/or the cartels and/or some combination thereof are kind of egging them along for this, because they probably think they're going to have a hand in it as a result, as to then getting something out of it for themselves. But I say this, as far as this is something the Trump administration should take a look at. If they want to go after our industries, regardless of who it is in this country, we should turn around and hit them with the fentanyl. You allowed fentanyl. You sat back and done nothing to prevent fentanyl from coming into the United States. And I think every relative of everyone who's passed away or were negatively affected by fentanyl in the United States should have $1 million lawsuit brought against the Mexican government for their lack of intervention in preventing it from happening.
Oh, sure.
And we should hit them, and that will bankrupt them within 24 hours. And
Yeah.
they'll give them something to think about. They want to sue for negligence. Well, you know what? We've got plenty of ammunition on our side to play the same game. And
Sure.
I think we're more justified than they are in their pursuit, because their lack of law enforcement down there to control their mess down there south of the border, that's on them. It's not on us.
Sure. You open up a class action lawsuit against Mexico for the actions of the drug cartels, which they have done very little or are unwilling to stop. I mean, like you said, they want to cast the blame on America and on gun owners. And this is the easy scapegoat for them, right? It's all because of this. Who they should be suing is the ATF. I mean, they should be suing the ATF for Operation Fast and Furious during the Obama administration, where the ATF intentionally walked thousands of guns across the border. They coerced gun dealers into allowing straw purchases and everything else, and then tried to throw the gun dealers under the bus. If they want to sue anybody, they should sue the Department of Justice and the ATF over that kind of stuff. But no, instead they're going to go after the manufacturers, because that's the low-hanging fruit, and obviously it's the best scapegoat that they have right now.
Well, I say that like you say, it's more than just going after. It's more than just retribution to the against the gun industry. I think it's politically motivated in the influence of whatever organization is behind it. And that's, like I said before, there's a lot that should be uncovered. And I think that this is time to find out who's pushing the buttons and who's playing the strings and the marionette here, as to who's influencing what and why.
Right.
I mean, it's long overdue. It really is. I mean,
Right.
Everybody wants to turn their back on it and ignore it. Well, I think this situation in New York just can open up a lot of lives. This assassination of this CEO of the
Right.
the United Healthcare.
Right.
I think this is really there's something going on here. It'd be, whatever, a planned hit or whatever. I don't think it was just a random act of somebody whose grandmother didn't get the right medical help at the right time. They were denied. I think there's a hell of a lot more to it than that.
Yeah. No. I mean,
I think this is a perfect opportunity to turn over the rock and see what's crawling around underneath.
Yeah. No, we're going to talk about that here in a little bit as well, because that is it's the prime time. People like Everytown for gun safety and everything else. They got up there and immediately started chanting about how one more law would have fixed this, and of course we'll talk about the particulars of it. But what one more law? This guy broke every law that was out there. I mean, why? How would one more law have stopped this situation? I mean, how do you prevent through legislation, through law? How do you prevent an assassination, a planned assassination? You can't. It's impossible. But they're going to make hay while the sun shines on this. They're going to keep trying to do it.
Of course, well, it's what they do. I mean, any opportunity, regardless of how weak the evidence points towards it, they're going to take advantage of it, and they're going to sit there and they're going to play it to the hilt, get as much mileage out of it as they can, even though it's totally ridiculous to do so. But then again, this is what they do. Like I say, they don't really have a good narrative to begin with. But like I say, you got to follow the money with these organizations. You really do. I mean, this whole thing with whether it be Black Lives Matter or Everytown for Gun Safety or the Gifford organization, There's a lot of money, a lot of contribution money flying around, and people are definitely getting fat on it.
Yeah.
You know, even though it's not, they're not making a whole lot of noise about it, but you know damn well people are pocketing a lot of green over these organizations.
Yeah.
That should be looked at too.
Well, that's the thing. People are making a living being advocates on these kind of things. I mean, that's why you see Shannon Watts, the Moms for Gun Safety and all that. I mean, she was making big 6-figure money all day long advocating for gun control. And so I never trust anybody who's out there trying to violate my constitutional rights and yet getting paid a big hefty salary for it at the same time. So yeah, I'm with you on that. Well, Fred, it's good to hear from you, friend. Any other thing you got today? Are you good to go?
I think that pretty much wraps it up for the week.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's good to hear from you, my friend. Thanks for calling in and joining us. We appreciate it.
All right, you stay warm. Take care now.
All right. Thanks so much. 319-527-3864. If you want to be part of the conversation today, we'd love to hear from you. Feel free to call in and dial in. I guess we'll talk about this shooting in New York, because this was, it's just evil, right? I mean, we can all complain about healthcare. We can complain about insurance companies. United Healthcare has had their own skeletons in the closet, some problems and everything else, but this was just plain evil and wrong. So for those of you who don't know, the CEO of United Healthcare, one of the largest healthcare organization insurance companies in the world, was targeted in an attack outside of a hotel in Manhattan on Wednesday. And he was just capped out, shot down in cold blood. The shooter apparently had been lying in wait, had arrived at the apparently knew where this guy was, had been following his itinerary, had arrived at the hotel shortly before the CEO Brian Thompson was leaving or coming in, and shot him with a suppressed pistol. Just walked up and capped him, and then got out and was gone. And they still haven't caught this guy, right? I mean, they have no idea. There's been a lot of speculation. Now they've recovered stuff at the scene. I don't know, the casings or whatever, and there's stuff written on the casings. And so, I mean, it's going to be a big kind of conspiracy thing, but none of this stopped Everytown for Gun Safety, who got up on X and started demanding and saying things like, trying to make hay while this is still going on. He said, senseless gun violence is tearing family apart. Our hearts are with his loved ones. He should still be alive. I agree with all that. But the fact that somehow they're going to make this all about senseless gun violence, that it's the gun that's causing it. Shannon Watts from Moms Demand Action, which is a subsidiary, I guess I should say, of Everytown, an affiliate. They weighed in with some similar commentary on X, saying that people in America should be able to go about their daily lives without the threat of being gunned down. Okay, great. I agree with that. Not that they are. Tragic things like this happen, but how do you legislate against an assassination attempt? Right? I mean, you got the guy who tried to take out Trump. You got the other guy who tried to take out Trump. Right? You have other assassination. This was like a lying in wait planned event. He was in New York City, where he couldn't legally own a gun. He had a suppressor, which you can't even own there, in New York City. And the biggie, of course, is that thou shalt not kill. We kind of all agree on that one, right? We kind of all agree on the don't murder people. I mean, how do you plan to stop an assassination when they have the time to? This is from Griffin Rogers on X. He says, how do you plan to stop an assassination? They have time to plan the weapon, location, date, time, review police movements. All the lawful can do is react. This guy broke all of New York City's gun laws, not to mention the big one that we all agree on: don't murder people. I mean, that's it. And of course, the CEO may or may not have been able to, maybe he was licensed to carry in Minnesota, but I mean, he wouldn't have been able to carry in New York City to protect himself. He apparently didn't have security detail or anything like that. I mean, this is the thing, trying to legislate evil or insanity are nearly impossible. This guy is one or both. I mean, definitely evil, maybe insane, maybe both. I think he's definitely evil. The shooter is who I'm talking about. But how do you legislate against evil? You can make all the laws in the world in regards to this stuff, and it doesn't stop bad things from happening. I'm not advocating that we take all laws off the books because they all don't matter. I'm saying once you have a basic framework in place, you don't need to add more. You don't. Because all you're doing now is putting more pressure on law-abiding citizens to try and comply with your more convoluted laws. And here's where we sit. Here is where we sit. And it's a painful place. And I mean, you want prime examples of how that's not working? We'll talk about that here in a second. I mean, you want prime examples of how this is not working out, that the more laws are not stopping things? We'll talk about that on the other side. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay. Let's go over here. I'm going back up here. See what else you guys are saying. Make a donation to GOA, says Captain over on Rumble. Yeah, no, I mean, I would definitely not say if you want to support some good gun rights organizations, GOA is a good one. Firearms Policy Coalition, the Second Amendment Foundation. That's what it is. Harold says the assassin shot that poor CEO in the back. That was such an evil act. Yeah, I mean, it is. It's totally evil. I mean, just totally evil. Jeannie says the problem with tyrannical medical care is that you become a target. Americans don't like tyrants. I mean, look, you can disagree with what's going on in the healthcare system, and it is horrific. I mean, United Healthcare they had a scandal here a couple of years ago where it showed that they were denying something like 37% of all claims, and there's a big thing. But again, nobody deserves to die in this kind of vigilante street justice over it. If there's a problem and something's been done wrong, then you bring it to light like they did, or you bring people to, you charge them, or you just don't allow people to walk up on a busy street and execute somebody. I mean, everybody could say, because I've seen some of this hype, rah of, well, they're finally getting some of our own. No, are you crazy? We live in a country of laws for a reason. We have a judicial system for a reason. It doesn't always make it easy. But if everybody just wanted to settle disputes by going out onto the street, I mean, you want anarchy? That's how you get anarchy. Anthony said, man, you'd think one of the most gun-regulated and legislated states in the entire country would have had no guns in it. What's going on here? Are pharma corporate assassins not following the law? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly. Layla says something similar. New York City has incredibly strict gun control, and it failed to keep Thompson alive. The assailant broke a lot of existing gun laws, and Thompson is still dead. The assailant could have used a pipe wrench to beat him to death. Pipe wrenches are perfectly legal. But yeah, I mean, exactly. But still, didn't, he broke all the laws as that they're due. Criminals, says Captain, doing what they do, ignoring the laws. Yeah, there you go. And Layla kind of echoed what I just said. The victim might not have been a perfect person, but we don't kill people because they fail to meet our expectation. The only excuse for killing someone is self-defense if you're looking for a valid, justifiable excuse. Yeah, I mean, that's 100% truth. Anyway, phone lines are open right now. It looks like I'm all caught up. 319-527-3864, 319-527-3864 if you want to call in. Jeannie goes on to say, medical billers are putting elderly out on the streets. No one deserves to die over it. Well, I agree that what you're talking, and this is part of the whole thing with United Healthcare, and they were the medical billing and the denials and it was adversely affecting a lot of the elderly. I'm not saying it's not horrific, Jeannie. I'm saying we don't go out on the street and kill people over it. That is, again, kind of the definition of evil. As much as we might want to pretend that there's a Batman out there making it safe for all of us, it's, that kind of vigilantism is a slippery slope. It's a kind of a horrific deal, but we'll continue on and talking about this. So anyway, your thoughts this morning. Remember that Gun Q&A is also open. We haven't talked about that, but if you have questions about guns or firearms or anything else, we're happy to talk with you about that and pick those things up and continue to discuss those today. So if you've got questions, feel free to leave them in the chat room this morning. And we'll see what goes on from there. GR Hill over on Rumble says there was some news that insider trading might be the motive. Again, I don't know. I know that there was reports last night or yesterday afternoon from Town Hall that said that they had found some script or some words written on, I guess, on the shell casings, either on the bullets or the shell casings, that was some kind of reference to the delay, deny. It was like 3Ds, delay, deny, which was again referencing back to the fact that United Healthcare has a policy to basically deny everything, and then you have to fight them to get them to pay for anything. So it's weird. Travis Cole says, his question is 6.5 or 308 for a DMR, designated marksman's rifle. I've never shot 6.5, but I will say that strictly from an availability of ammo standpoint, I'd have to choose the 308 because that is the more prevalent ammo. I mean, if you just raw hit me with it on the side, that's what I would say. But I mean, not from a ballistic standpoint, but just for the availability. Here we go.
What the hell is an assault weapon? Does that mean that if we hurt your feelings, you should consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can accept that. Here's Michael Dukes. Kind of a dick, but somewhat funny.
What? That wasn't nice. Make a note. That guy's kind of a jerk. All right, let's continue on here. Let's go over to, again, we were just talking about how all the gun control outlets and organizations were, using this CEO incident in New York to try and foster and further their assertions that gun control. I mean, we should all not be willing to, we should have no fear to walk on the streets, to go about your daily lives about the threat of being gunned down. You're right, we should. But tell me what further law would have fixed this? I mean, it's already illegal to have the gun without all the permits. It's already illegal. You get no suppressors in New York City. And of course, the big one is, don't kill people. Those were all the law. What further law would have changed that? And if you want more examples of this, if you want More examples of why this is not going to work. All you have to do is go to Florida. Oh, Florida. I mean, they've got a lot of laws on the books, right? Now I think one of the most recent laws was that age limit where they increased the age limit. No one under the age of 21 is able to buy a firearm at all. Even though the federal restrictions on handguns is only at 18 years old, but in Florida, they can't do that. But you get situations like this in Florida. Again, tell me which law would have stopped this. A teenage boy is accused of shooting and killing a 19-year-old in broad daylight following a botched gun deal outside a Dollar General store in Florida. Now, police have finally arrested the juvenile more than a year after this incident. This kid, Kidris Jackson, was charged with second-degree murder after the victim, Griffin Smith, was found riddled with bullets inside of his pickup truck moments after he purchased a firearm from the then 13-year-old gunman. I just want to point, 13, can't buy a gun in Florida unless you're 21 years or older. This kid was he was selling guns. Police said the victim met this kid at the Dollar General store to purchase the gun, and when the alleged seller attempted to swindle him for more money after the pair agreed to a $350 payment, following the deal gone wrong, the 13-year-old fired off multiple shots at the victim as he attempted to drive away. They found 14 rifle shells near the fatal scene. Now, you got a 19-year-old who's too young buying guns from a 13-year-old who probably is too young and who obviously had no problem just turning the gun on somebody else and going all gangster on him. Tell me again, which law would have stopped this? I'll wait. I mean, background check laws? Well, he was already 13. He wasn't supposed to have guns. He obviously had more than one. They weren't doing background checks. They weren't abiding by the age law. They were criminals? Yes, they were criminals, and by definition, they were breaking the law. I mean, it doesn't matter how old they are. Criminals, young, old, they aren't criminals because they follow the law to the letter. No, that they're criminals because they just ignore it. And by the way, what an upstanding member of society this guy was when he made a deal and then decided to squeeze the guy for more money afterwards. I mean, this is the kind of people that you want to deal with, right? Gun control it's not going to work. Laws are for the law-abiding citizens. And unfortunately, we're the ones that are being targeted for the actions of all these other people. Anytime something like this happens, the immediate thing is, oh, we've got to do something. We've got to go do our thing. And of course, the only people who are really affected by that are the law-abiding, who now have yet another hurdle in the way of being able to exercise their constitutional rights. The effect has always been, whether it's the Gun Control Act of 1968, the Firearms Owners Protection Act, the NFA, whatever it has always ended up being restrictions on lawful, law-abiding Americans. I mean, Prohibition came in, and you want the rise of organized crime was all part of that, and that was all part and parcel of the NFA and everything that was going on. Bootleggers were the guy who the court case US v. Miller was a bootlegger with a sawed-off shotgun, and that's what solidified the National Firearms Act into set the precedent for the Supreme Court. People were going to break the law. All you're doing is penalizing law-abiding citizens. That's all you're doing in these situations. But there's more. How about this one over in North Carolina, where a 19-year-old or 18-year-old was charged with 5 counts of assault with a deadly weapon with the intent to kill. after allegedly shooting at a car with 5 people, including 3 children inside. He was able to get out of jail before the trial on those charges. They gave him a $60,000 bond. He was ordered to wear an ankle monitor, among other conditions of release, which eventually helped the police locate him after he allegedly brandished a rifle at a woman outside of a North Carolina gun shop. It happened at a shop in adjacent to the Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department's division building. I mean, it was all this was like right there. Despite the proximity to law enforcement and a healthy number of armed citizens, one of the employees of the gun store says that this guy Johnson brazenly pointed a gun at his wife for no reason. He told Channel 9 News that his wife was picking him up from work when she pulled into the parking lot. She was met with the end of a gun barrel. He said they were grateful that they were able to peel out of there unharmed. Apparently, right before the incident, Johnson, the guy out on parole with an ankle monitor, was inside the store buying ammunition. And then he walked to a suspected Uber as the employee's wife pulled into the parking lot. And at that point, he pulled out a gun and pointed it at her car, which stopped before she sped off. He then got into the Uber, which started to drive off. I mean, again, there's a bunch of why would you point the gun at a stranger? I mean, how did you walk into how did you get out on bond for those 5 counts of assault with a deadly weapon and intent to kill? How did you get out on such a cheap bond? Where did you get the rifle? And why were you buying ammunition at an ammunition store while you're out on? I mean, it's just, again, those are all unlawful acts. All of them unlawful acts. How do you stop this? The problem is deeper, obviously, than just the guns. There's some form of societal issue. You've got mental health issue. You've got a cultural issue where these people just feel emboldened to completely ignore the law and do whatever they feel like. And the fact that all you're trying to do now is hurt lawful or punish or penalize lawful law-abiding citizens is counterproductive, if nothing else. Because people, when they have the ability to defend themselves, can do so. They can do so. They can do so easily. Again, case in point, there was a meat market down in where'd my story go? Armed robbers, met their match when they targeted a New Orleans meat market. Authorities say 2 teens, both armed, walked into Sam's Meat Market just before 8 p.m. on Tuesday evening and demanded money from the store employees. The store manager said the armed individual came into the store demanding money. They came in and they were like, money, 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 money. That's all they said. Workers can be seen on the surveillance footage from the store complying with the would-be robbers before reaching for a gun near the register. Apparently, almost all the employees are armed there. The 18-year-old was shot once, and then a juvenile was struck multiple times. There's been no charges filed, and they are apparently looking for the final juvenile suspect who was wounded on the way out the door. Now, look, nobody wants to have to use their firearm to defend themselves, but as you could see there, they had the opportunity to do so because you can't legislate. It's already illegal to hold up meat markets or stores. It's already illegal to rob people. The only thing you can do is allow people the ability to defend themselves because when seconds count, police are only minutes away. Now, this is a tragedy that somebody had to lose their life over it, but those are the consequences of your action. So it's not more laws. It's giving people the ability to take personal responsibility for their own protection. That's what this is all about. And you get story after story just like this of people being able to push back against criminals who don't obey the law. When law-abiding citizens have the ability to do so, they can do so quite well. All right, we're going to talk about Canada up next and this big Mexican court case that's going before the Supreme Court. We're going to talk about those as well. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Yeah, unemployed fatherless behavior. Unemployed fatherless behavior. That's what Decoy Voice would call it. I mean, it's madness, man. Absolute madness what's going on there. Brian says, and this is going back to that CEO incident in New York. He goes, this goes to a much deeper issue, the perception and in some cases the reality that the justice system is failing to administer justice. I would probably say that that's probably a component of that. I would argue that it will probably come to light that is some kind of component of that. It still doesn't make it right, but it is, I imagine, a component of that for sure. And no, I don't think anybody's advocating murder here, Jeannie. That's not what I'm saying. Let's go here. Hide that. There we go. Come on. There we go. Okay. Yeah. Wow. They should outlaw Dollar General for those two. Yeah. No, I think so. Right. I mean, there should just be no public meetings outside of a Dollar General store. Yeah. Yep. Catherine says, well, murder is a crime, and here we are. Again, that's exactly right. I'm going back here. Slavery, plantation owners. You guys are going all over the place here. What? Who's fighting who here? You guys are arguing over something that I can't quite get the thread on here. Who asked me for kimchi sausage yesterday? Well, I didn't, but I thought about it. Sounds delicious. Send some to me. All right. It wasn't capitalism. No, it wasn't. Okay. Canada, a Mexican court case. I don't see much going to be. The CEO was shot with a rare gun. I didn't hear that. I didn't hear what kind of gun it was, but all right. Yeah, remember that professor who advocating going to NRA headquarters and shooting the staff? Whatever happened to him? Probably not a lot, right? If it had been a Democratic headquarters, that'd be a whole different deal. But because it was the NRA, I mean, wow, why would you want to do that? All right, let me pull these stories down here so that I know what I got going on. We still haven't talked about that. We close that. Florida, man, Florida just keeps getting in the news. I don't know what the deal is with Florida, but they just keep popping into the news. We've all heard about all the different school students who've been suspended for various dumb reasons, right? The kid who bit a Pop-Tart into a gun shape, remember that? Or the kid who bit the chicken tender, or the kid who just made a finger gun, remember that? That was a zero tolerance thing. Well, now there's another incident going on in Hillsborough, Florida. The Florida Carry Inc. has filed a lawsuit against the school districts over its decision to suspend a high school student who officials claim brought 3 spent shell casings into the schools. According to the lawsuit, they learned of the incident via a message sent to them by the Fortify Florida app, suspicious activity tool that lets parents and students relay information. They searched the student and they found in his backpack, they conducted a pat down and they revealed inside of his Ziploc bag some spare change and 3 expended brass casings. The casings had been used while target shooting with his parents on a recent excursion. They did not contain any powder, projectile, shot, bullets, wadding, or live primers. They were just dead, inert brass. The deputy sheriff told school officials that the boy had not committed any crime and that he had no crime by possessing the shell casings. The youth had done nothing wrong. However, the principal ignored the deputy's claims and called in the student's parents, who arrived about 40 minutes later. They were told to take their child home and wait for a phone call. It seems, though, but because the parents went to bat for the student, that the kid caught a suspension because the principal was bent out of shape for somebody defying his authority. The reasons for the lawsuit are pretty straightforward. According to Tom Knighton at Over Bearing Arms, under Florida law, schools are beholden to certain definitions for things like guns and ammunitions, and spent shell casings don't fall under the category, and the schools can't change the definition. So, and there was no reason to believe that they were intended to use the casing as a weapon or anything else. It was just spent shell casings. So what you got is you've got an authoritarian principal who didn't like it when some parents stood up for what their kid was doing. And instead, because they can't fight back against the parents, they take it out on the kid. And so they suspended the kid. So this incident's going to go to court. But again, reason number 1263, why you probably want to think about homeschooling your kids over things like this. It's madness. Nuttier than squirrel poo. What's my address, says Frank. Is he going to send me some sausage? Frank, I'll can I message you here? Can I message you from this app? I'll message you my P.O. box. Send me an email, Frank, and I'll send you my address. Email's right there. See below my finger, me at michaeldukeshow.com. Go ahead and send me an email, and I'll send you my address. All right. How was my first full week in my new digs? Well, everything was fine and dandy until yesterday. I stepped onto the porch and went head over tea kettle, fell down. That was unfun.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Duke Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Duke Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
Take my rifle, this is my gun. This is for fighting, this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday, your chance to sound off on issues of a 2A nature right here on the Michael Duke Show. Good morning and welcome back to the program. It is hour 2 of the big radio show. At the end of the show today, of course, in the final segment, we'll be hanging out with Willie Waffle from wafflemovies.com. He'll be joining us to talk about entertainment news and, of course, the movies and some other stuff. We'll just hang out and chat a little bit. It should be fun. Can't wait to get there and see what's going on with that. Meanwhile, we got some stories still here in the remaining 2 segments of Firearms Friday, and the phone lines are open if you want to sound off today. It's been a while since we've taken any phone calls. We've been off, and of course, been a couple weeks since we had Firearms Friday, and of course, the gun Q&A is up and available right now, which means questions and answers. The Phone number to call is 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864. If you want to sound off, we'd love to hear what you guys have to say on this and talk about whatever firearms-related stuff, news you want to talk about today. We'd love to do it. Let me just tell you that right now I am grateful that I don't live in Canada. Sorry. Canada, I mean, I thought it was I thought it was a democracy. I thought it was a democracy that had, like a parliamentary control and elected officials and everything else. But apparently they don't even have to check in with Parliament to do certain things. They just decided that they have a whole bunch of new guns that they want to ban. And they proposed a list. The federal government in Canada announced a new gun control measure yesterday, adding several hundred models and variants to a list of banned weapons. The public safety minister said these firearms can no longer be legally used, sold, or imported in Canada. The announcement comes one day before the 35th anniversary of the massacre of the École Polytechnique de Montréal. Radio Canada first reported the news early Thursday morning. The new measure, which effectively goes into effect immediately, lists more than 300 makes and models of what the government calls assault-style firearms as prohibited weapons. The RCMP deputy commissioner told reporters that the models that were assessed and added to the list fall under the government's 2020 definition of assault-style weapons. They previously had banned 1,500 other models on it. So they're just adding to it. They're just like, we can, and we'll add this, and we'll add that, and we'll. Now there's going to be an amnesty until October 30th of this next year for current gun owners to comply with the ban, and they will be part of the government's planned buyback program. Now, the buyback program still hasn't been launched. This is from 2020. It still hasn't been launched. But they did say that on Thursday that a pilot program that has been running for the past month has collected and destroyed a couple dozen guns. So doing great work there. Great work. The worst part about all this is some of the posturing that's going on with this, because the defense minister said some of the guns the government plans to collect will be sent to Ukraine as part of Canada's ongoing donations of military aid to that. So they're going to steal the guns from their citizens and send them over to the Ukrainians so they can fight the Russians. I mean, does nobody else see the irony in that situation? I mean, first of all, I don't think the Ukrainians need a bunch of semi-auto small arms, right? I mean, semi-auto civilian style small arms. I think they need missiles and drones and, some of the bigger stuff. They probably got enough AKs. They probably got enough battlefield pickups over there from the Russians that they probably don't have to worry too much about small arms. But the fact that they're going to take these guns from their citizens and send them to citizens of a foreign country to fight you cannot make this stuff up. I mean, the fact that the Trudeau administration can just up and make a list. Oh, here's our new list of guns. It's a new wish list. And promulgate it, and it has the force of law. Didn't go back through Parliament. They didn't discuss it. They didn't debate it. Just boom. So the question now becomes, and I think this is a question that a lot of people have been asking since the whole trucker debacle and everything else, is Canada really a free country? I'm going to say probably not. Bearing Arms points out that when we were up in arms because the ATF banned an accessory, not a full 200, 300 guns, but just an accessory, that we fought and got the ban overturned entirely, and are probably going to get the other one being overturned as well. So, that's what happens in a free country. When they overreach, you slap them back. But in Canada, it's like, no, we decide, you sit down and shut up. Oh, and we're going to send all your stuff to these other countries and let those citizens use them to defend themselves. But you, Canada, can't defend yourself on this situation. You cannot make this stuff up, man. Again, sorry. I'm glad I don't live in Canada on this. Well, there is some good news on the gun front. The synagogue shooting in California back in 2019, where a woman got killed and 3 others were injured, led to the Brady Group, right? The Brady campaign, whatever they're calling themselves these days. They got together with some of the victims of the synagogue shooting. They filed a suit against Smith & Wesson, as well as the gun store called San Diego Guns, that sold the rifle to the shooter. In 2021, the judge in the Superior Court of California allowed the lawsuit to move ahead, despite the arguments from Smith & Wesson and others that the PLCAA, the Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Acts, precluded lawsuits seeking to hold gun makers responsible for the acts of the criminals. But this week, a Superior Court judge named Wendy Behan, Wendy, you're a hero, granted Smith & Wesson's motion to dismiss after determining that the PLCAA, in fact, does apply. She noted in her decision that the PLCAA generally preempts civil actions for damages and injunctive relief against gun makers and sellers arising from the misuse of firearms, but that there is a predicate exception that allows litigation where a manufacturer or seller knowingly violates a state or federal statute applicable to the sale or marketing of the product, where a violation proximately caused the harm that led to the lawsuit. And that's what California, and that's what this lawsuit tried to portray, is that Brady said that Smith & Wesson knowingly violated California's prohibition on the possession of assault weapons, the federal prohibition on the sale of full auto machine guns, and California's prohibition on deceptive, untrue, or misleading advertising. Now, this is one of the first cases where the gun control group tried to argue in a legal sense that there was no functional difference between a semi-automatic rifle and a full auto machine gun, because the gun used was a semi-auto. But they were trying to say that they knowingly violated the federal statute in the sale of the prohibition of full auto machine guns. Their argument, and this is from the decision from the judge, plaintiffs allege that the rifle used in the shooting was a fully automatic machine gun because it could allegedly be modified, thereby violating U.S. code. However, the evidence shows the rifle used, the M&P 15, is a California-compliant semi-automatic rifle not designed to function as a machine gun. And as the SCOTUS recently held in Garland v. Cargill, semi-automatic firearms, which required shooters to re-engage the trigger for every shot, are not machine guns. And while plaintiffs argued that modifications could make the rifle illegal, this is like the Department of Pre-Crime, right? You could technically turn your car into a bomb. Therefore, we're going to charge you with making a bomb. What? I mean, that's like walking around and say every man has the potential to be a rapist. He's got the equipment, but I mean, what? While plaintiffs argue that modifications could make the rifle legal, there's no evidence that the shooter intended to or did modify the firearm. 40-year-old ATF agency interpretations relied on by plaintiffs are not binding on this court. Boom. Right there. And this is interesting because the city of Chicago is now trying to sue Glock. If you recall this came up here just a little while ago, and they're essentially making the same argument in Chicago, that because you can unlawfully modify a Glock to become full auto, again, illegally, they're trying to say that Glock is now responsible for the actions of all these criminals. The judge also rejected the Brady campaign assertions that the shooter modified his rifle by attaching a pistol grip, which they claim turned the rifle into an assault weapon under California's law. The judge, however, ruled that the undisputed evidence showed that the rifle lacked any features that would classify it as an assault weapon, and that there's no legal basis to claim it becomes one simply because it could be modified post-sale. And finally, they said Smith & Wesson had a duty to exercise control over San Diego Guns retail sales, that they had a duty. to exercise control over the gun shop. And the judge just basically waved that one away and said, this is a common law negligence claim, not a claim based on a violation of a statute applicable to the sale of firearms. On that basis alone, the claim is a qualified civil liability action subject to dismissal under PLCAA. After reaching the merits, the claim lacks evidentiary support. Plaintiffs argue that Smith & Wesson had control over San Diego guns, quote, but chose not to exercise it, unquote. There's no evidence that Smith & Wesson exercised any supervisory control over the method and way San Diego Guns went about its business of selling and transferring firearms. I mean, this is good news, though, right? This is good news. They're always trying to go for this long shot. Thank God for the PLCAA. I will say this. Thank you to Hillary Clinton. Thank you to Joe Biden, both of which, as senators, voted in favor of the PLCAA. It's one of the things they probably regret now, but at the time, oh man, this was some genius stuff here. Protecting, again, you don't sue Jack Daniels and you don't sue Ford Motor Company for every drunk driver out there that misuses their product. But that's what they wanted to do with gun manufacturers. Thank goodness we got this thing in there and put it together, because otherwise this would have been a lot messier. A lot messier. All right, phone lines are still open at 319-527-3864. We're going to continue here in just a moment. We got more coming up. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. One dead ahead, one firearm segment left. We're going to talk about this lawsuit. Mexico trying to sue Smith & Wesson for $10 billion with a B, $10 billion. We'll continue with this here in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes,
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Buyback. I think you misspelled confiscation. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing. You misspelled confiscation. It is, I mean, again, buyback, forced buyback is confiscation by any other name, right? All right. Yeah. Anti-soul slip devices also work. Yeah, the worst part is that I've got boardwalks leading up to my porch, like little not narrow, but like a little wooden boardwalk. And it looked dry as a bone. It was all fine. The snow was gone. Everything was good. I took one step on that and it was like a skillet. And yeah, I got to get me some of them. Somebody showed me their shoes the other day and they're like, oh, look at these. I said, like, how are you walking? Because it's so slippery. And he's like, oh, I got these. And they've got these little soft pins in them or something that allow it to. I'm like, yeah, I got to get me some of those, because holy cow, I took a header and it was painful. It was a painful realization as I was looking up at the sky that was probably not a good thing. Brian says the Canadian gun ban and a confiscation, he goes, virtue signaling at its finest. And then the criminals in the Ukraine will smuggle the same guns back to Canada, probably to be used by criminals in Canada, right? Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Anthony said, I can modify my work truck to run on kittens theoretically. Doesn't mean that the ASPCA has grounds to sue Dodge for me being a psycho. Yeah, PETA, I don't know, one of the two. One of the two. I mean, that's what's going on. They're called golf shoes down in the States, says Frank. I don't know. All right. So that's it. What are you guys doing this weekend? I would love to say that I'm in this is the time of year where normally I'm like debating, am I in the Christmas spirit yet? I mean, we're 19 days away from Christmas. 19 days. My life is upside down right now. And I haven't even thought about Christmas yet. I have not even thought about Christmas at this point. I don't even know. I will be taking off that week though, between the week of the 23rd. I will be taking that week off and going through the first of the year. So just so you know, 2 weeks from Monday, I'll be taking that week off because we're going to be doing the final countdown to the takeover. We take over the radio stations officially on the 1st of January. So those last 2 weeks are going to be busy for sure. Ice bugs. Yeah, no, I know my tree isn't up. I mean, we're trying to unpack an area where all the boxes are so we can put the tree up. That's where we're at right now. Ice bugs, says Bill. Are those the shoes, Bill, or are those like the cleats that go over your shoes? You know, that's what I want to know. Terry says time off is already expired. I don't know, Terry. I talked to my boss. He's kind of a jerk, but you know, he said that I could take the time off. So sorry, Terry. Sorry. I mean, that's what it is. Kim says he got 11 grandkids and he's in rush mode. Oh man, 11. I was watching last night and we were down at the chamber building in Homer for the Christmas tree lighting, and Santa was going to come in and everything else. And I was just laughing because there was a family that walked in while Terry and I were sitting there waiting for everything to start. And a family walked in and it was just like one kid, two kid, three. It was like one kid after another. It was like 7 kids. I'm like, wow. I mean, we had 5, which is a lot, but I'm just like, wow, this day. And they were all pretty young. And I'm like, man, good on you folks. Good on you folks. It's good stuff down there. All right. Where are we at here? They're called ice buds. Ice buds. Okay. I'll have to look. Thank you, Rick. Amazon.com, right? Is that what you said? Amazon.com, ice buds. I'll see if I can figure it out, because I definitely need something to prevent myself from blowing my own brains out on the ice and falling down and whacking my head. I'll see what it's like. All right, here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
What the hell's an assault weapon?
You know, if we could just figure out how to get all of the murder guns and the attack guns and not keep selling those to people and just sell protection guns, I think that would be great and solve a lot of problems.
Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
All right. Well, I walked over the end of the commercial break there. Sorry about that. I blame it on the hit to the head. I slid. Yeah, I took my first. Somebody said to me last night, they said, well, welcome to Homer. It's all about the ice in the winter. And I will say that I have noticed that now, that the shoes that I used in every other part of the state that have been just fine are not quite fine down here, because there can be ice on the most unsuspecting of service. I stepped onto a bare boardwalk outside my house and not realizing that it was covered with a thin sheen of ice, and proceeded to splat on the ground. And so, yeah, we definitely need to look at getting, like I said, I'm going to blame it to the hit on the head. So it's something we can do here. All right. Well, we didn't talk about this. I really want to talk about this crocodile alligator fight in Wasilla, but I suppose I've been telling you about this deal in this court case. So a half a dozen of the 18 amicus briefs submitted to the Supreme Court this week in the Smith & Wesson et al. Versus the Mexican government came from Second Amendment organizations. The sheer number of briefs, according to Cam Edwards, that have been filed in support of the gun makers being sued by the Mexican government is a sign of the importance of the ongoing fight. Not only because that Mexico's trying to extort $10 billion from the company, but also because this could help determine whether the PLCAA is going to offer much protection for lawful commerce moving forward. There's a whole list, but Cam Edwards has broken down some of them from organizations like Gun Owners of America, Gun Owners of California, the Heller Foundation, the Tennessee Firearms Association, Rights Watch International, Grassroots North Carolina. There's a whole bunch of people who are signing off on this and trying to file these briefs. The Firearms Policy Coalition focuses exclusively on the PLCAA, warning if Mexico's lawsuit is allowed to continue, that, quote, a cascade of litigation, unquote, aimed at gun makers is sure to follow. Here's what they wrote. Mexico's attempt in this litigation to impose a foreign nation's policy preferences on the American people through judicial fiat and exact a financial penalty that would cripple the Americans' firearms ecosystem would be deeply troubling even if it stood alone, but it does not. To the contrary, this is merely one of the phalanx of recent abusive lawsuits brought by anti-Second Amendment activists, organizations, and governments. These suits all share a single purpose: to force the firearms industry to defend against a war of attrition that it will lose even if it wins, because the cost of the defense alone is enough to bring the industry to its knees. Remington Arms has already lost its no-win lawfare, driven into bankruptcy, regardless of the legal merits of the industry's defense against the tsunami of litigation. SAF, the Second Amendment Foundation, weighed in further on that, saying that allowing a foreign government to pierce the PLCAA's protections poses significant risk to firearms manufacturers that flow to the American people. And while and they go on to talk about why the PLCAA, I mean, it's U.S. law. That Mexico can't just decide, well, our laws are different, so we're going to sue you. No, it's American law, which is why U.S. District Judge Dennis Saylor originally dismissed the Mexican government's lawsuit. Unfortunately, the First Circuit Court of Appeals revived it, which is now why it's before the Supreme Court. Now, it hasn't gone to trial. In fact, Saylor recently dismissed most of the claims a second time after concluding that most of the companies that were sued for allegedly aiding and abetting cartel violence had no real connection to the state of Massachusetts where the lawsuit was filed. So, oops, you guys should have read into that one a little bit. But basically, this goes on to talk about Mexico's claims and basically saying they're attempting to scapegoat lawful American companies into being part of the blame because they themselves can't control their own internal stuff from the cartels and everything else. The National Association of Gun Rights brief largely focuses on the proximate cause argument used by the First Circuit Court of Appeals to revive the lawsuit. The PLCAA contains a provision that states if a manufacturer or seller of a firearm knowingly violated a state or federal statute applicable to the sale, that a proximate cause of harm you could get relief then. Then a lawsuit could take place without running afoul of the PLCAA's protection. NAGR's attorney argued that the First Circuit adopted an overly expansive approach to proximate cause in order to keep the lawsuit afloat. And it goes on to talk about how that basically they're, again, just trying to scapegoat this whole thing. The Mexico, from the NRA's brief said, Mexico seeks billions of dollars in damages in the imposition of extensive gun controls in America while relying on shoddy data and false allegations to exaggerate impact of the petitioner's firearms on Mexican homicides. Mexico argues that the petitioners exploited the September 2004 sunset ban on the federal sale of so-called assault weapons to vastly increase production, particularly in the military-style assault weapons favored by the drug cartels. Consequently, Mexico argues Mexican homicides increased dramatically beginning in 2004. But in fact, Mexico's homicide rate was lower during each of the first 3 years after the ban expired, than during any year in which the ban was in effect. So their homicide rate actually went down after the ban stopped. But this is their argument, that it's all because we stopped outlawing. Mexico further contends the increased percentage of homicides by gun was contemporaneous with the increased gun production in the U.S. beginning in 2005. Rather, the 1995 to 2010, the year with the highest percentage of Mexican homicides by a gun was 1999, when the assault weapons ban was in full force. So and again, why are they not going after the Department of Justice itself? Right? Remember, again, the Gunwalker thing, Operation Fast and Furious, all that stuff. Remember all that? Where we walked hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of guns intentionally across the border? The ATF, their little sting program it ended up getting a border patrol officer killed. They ended up throwing the gun dealers that they had coerced into working with them on this under the bus when it was all said and done. Do you remember any of this? Why weren't they suing the government over that? Let's go over to the phone. Ron is in North Pole. Ron, what's on your mind, my friend? Ron, can you hear me? Hello, Ron. Oh, apparently Ron couldn't hear me and he hung up. All right. Well, we'll wait for Ron to ring back. But again, why doesn't anybody remember that? And why didn't they? Because then it was admitted. They admitted that they did this. That was the worst part. They admitted it was all part of a sting and a ploy, and then they lost control of it. And hundreds of guns went across the border. What is going on with that? Right? What is going on with that? All right. We got Ron back on the phone here, I think. Let's go over here and see what oops, I had to refresh the window there. Let me see if we can get Ron back on the phone, and we'll see if we can see what he has to say. Try it one more time. Good morning, Ron. Can you hear me this time?
Good morning, Michael. At the risk of being just a little bit facetious on the current topic, I thought we settled that on the plain of San Jacinto in 1836.
Oh, geez. I thought we settled that. We'll give you our guns bullet first. That's what we'll do over there. Yeah. Well,
you have a great day. Oh, and by the way, congratulations on your new endeavor.
All right. Well, I thank you, Ron. I appreciate you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Appreciate you calling in this morning.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Yeah. I mean, haven't we settled this before? When did this become a thing all over again? I mean, inquiring minds want to know. Finally, this brief story, which I probably won't get into today before we run out of time with Willie. Two brothers got into a fight in an apartment in Wasilla. It's resulted in arrests and the charges of both of them. Apparently, these two brothers, who were 30 and 33 years old, they got into a fight over an anime, which is a Japanese cartoon. They got into a fight, so much so that it became a physical altercation. They both keep reptiles as pets, one an alligator, one a crocodile. And in rebuttal, one of them threw the crocodile outside, and then the other one. Anyway, you can't make this stuff up. The crocodile's dead. The alligator's missing. They're both got cruelty to animals things going on, and I don't know. I can't even imagine. This is welcome to Florida North, I guess, is what's going on there. All right, we got to go. The Michael Dukes Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Willie Waffle's up next.
Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. I mean, did you see this? So here's two 30-year-old guys living after this, 30 and 33, two brothers. He got into a shoving match with each other. The story that Terry read to me was that they were fighting again over some point of, I don't know, an anime story or something, and they got into this argument. They trashed their apartments. And then at some point, one brother threw his brother's pet alligator outside in the snow, and then the other one did the same with their pet crocodile. So then he was upset and went looking for his crocodile. It was 30 degrees, snow and ice on the ground, too cold for the reptiles to survive. They found the alligator behind some landscaping rocks, but they couldn't find the crocodile. So now they've got they're facing misdemeanor charges of 4th degree assault, cruelty to animals. The other one's facing misdemeanor counts of driving under the influence, endangering the welfare of a child, and cruelty to animals. I mean, but what? What? I mean, this whole thing was, who has a fight about a cartoon to the point of where you trash your apartment and then start throwing stuff out in the what? I'm just like, what is going on? What is going on with these people? It kind of blows my mind that this is the world we live in right now. Oh man. She's reading me this story. I'm just laughing. Assault crocodiles. It was an assault alligator versus an assault crocodile. Yeah. Joel just said, having a reptile in this climate is cruel. It's my main reason for wanting to deport Murkowski. Oh, oh. Yeah, anime soy boys. I guess so. I mean, if two 30-year-olds are arguing over, I mean, I've watched a lot of anime in my life. There's some of those are pretty good, but you're going to get into an argument to where you trash your apartment and then, throw your $1,500 crocodile out in the snow and watch it die. I mean, who does that stuff? Who does that stuff? Frank says, I guess in Homer, that's how they recognize the new residents. Bruises, bumps, canes, and limps. Yeah, that would be me. That would. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely a thing. Yeah. Time to sue Mexico for importing fentanyl. That's what Fred was saying earlier. I think that's a good call right there. That's a good call. You want to sue us for, we'll sue you for not taking care of the cartels and allowing all that fentanyl to cross the border. Yeah. Oof. Ron has the best comment, says Terry. Yeah, no. Let's see. Leaving for work. Good to hear your voice on 101.7. Thank you, Cindy. KPEN. Jeannie, it was a case of reptile dysfunction. Do you have RD? Do you have RD? Do you know there's a pill for that? Yeah, there's a pill for that. I mean, these guys, who in their right, and endangering a child. So apparently somebody had a kid driving around with a kid in your car. That's probably not a good idea. And get everything squared away. I mean, holy cow. What a hot mess. What a hot mess. Welcome to Wasilla. That's the Wasilla Billies, right? The Wasilla Hillbillies. That was the Valley Trash or whatever. I mean, I guess that's the epitome of Valley Trash story right there, when these guys are fighting it out over alligators. It's just like a Florida man story. You can't make this stuff up, man. You cannot make it up. Absolutely. Okay, phone's buzzing. Willie is now locked in. We're ready to get things ready to go. Please make sure that you like and share. You like and follow the show page. You ring the bell on YouTube and do all that stuff. You can follow or share the show from wherever you're at. We would love to hear from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you share it, more people get involved, et cetera, et cetera. So let's get on board and get that ready to go. Meanwhile, we're going to jump into this here, and 30 seconds out, we're ready to get things ready to rock and roll. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking. I'm ready for some entertainment, aren't you? I'm ready. I'm ready for some entertainment. Let's get it going on. Homer crawl. You can't fall down if you're already there. It's cold down there. It's cold. I can tell you, it's cold down there. All right, here we go. Let's jump into it. 3, 2, and 1. Let's do it. All right, welcome back to the program. It is Firearms Friday, the last day of this week. I mean, I still got work to do. I got a ton of work to do, people. I got radio stations to finish and put together and build. And oh, man, it's going to be exciting. It's exciting. But before we do that, we're going to hear from our friend Willie Waffle, who's going to come in and give us the weekend movie and entertainment review, because that's how I like to finish out the week. Willie Waffle. Hello, my friend. How are you? What's happening in your world? Are you as busy as I am or what?
No, I've been on vacation all week. I literally have not done an ounce of work.
Hate you so much.
I am like cruising into the weekend. I mean, I'm not getting out of bed in the morning. Like I have a plan. Man. And then my alarm goes off and I'm like, man, my bed is nice and warm. And well, I don't really have to do those things today.
Right.
So I have had like just a lot of sleep this week, a lot of relaxing this week, a little bit of partying this week. It's been nice.
I hate you so much right now. I mean, so anyway, let's get into it with the entertainment news and the movies and stuff. So you've got let's see, I guess we should start off. We mentioned this 2 weeks ago when we were on here that Mattel put out the dolls for the Wicked movie, the Wizard of Oz Wicked movie, and they had the wrong website on there, and it was a problem. And now you knew it was going to happen. They're getting sued.
Oh yeah, because it was a naughty website by accident, one that had adult material, and yes, it has happened. A South Carolina mother, Miss Holly Ricketson, has filed suit against Mattel for printing that naughty website by accident on the packaging for the different Wicked dolls. And now I know this is going to shock you. It's being filed as a potential class action lawsuit. Who would have thought that was going to happen?
Yeah.
Now, what she says is that her daughter, had gotten the doll and gotten the Wicked doll, and then went right to the website. And then she brought the computer over and went, "Mommy, look what's on the website." And it was lots of naughty pictures. And this has caused them, quote unquote, emotional distress.
Well,
Why?
I could
Holly
see
Ricketson says that she never would have ever bought the doll if she knew that there was an error on the website, on the box.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, I get that. I wouldn't want to buy that either. But now they got real money, right? Because there's money involved.
Oh, $5 million. They're seeking $5 million, maybe even more.
Oh.
Because they're getting Mattel for negligence, for selling products that were unfit for sale, and now you know why they filed this lawsuit in California. Why there are certain consumer protection laws that are in California that may actually help them win their case.
Bad deal for her. Bad deal for Mattel. Again, somebody got fired over this. I know it happened, but
I would think so.
All right. Well, there you go. That's the big news. And Martha Stewart back in the news, or what? What's going on?
Yes, the well-known ex-con Martha Stewart. She's at it again. She's causing trouble again. She's taking a little bit of heat because she made a nice little trip to Italy during the Thanksgiving holiday. And she went to, like many tourists do, went to the Sistine Chapel. And she did something a lot of the tourists don't do, because you're not supposed to. She took a lot of pictures. A ton of pictures.
Oh, you're not supposed to take pictures? You're not supposed to take pictures?
You're not supposed to.
Oh.
No, because the flash photography damages the paintings by Michelangelo. So you're not allowed to. Like, they're very strict about this. Like, security will tell you, and there's signs as you go in. You can't take pictures. They're trying to preserve all the work that was done. But somehow Martha got away with it and put it all over Instagram. And as you know, the internet is a very forgiving place. A place where, people are very understanding,
loving,
about things like
cherishing. This. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
They are roasting her. roasting her
Oh man,
for doing this.
Well, it is, look, I never take pictures with a flash on my camera. My camera is good enough on my phone that I can take pictures almost in the dark without a flash. So I never use a flash. Maybe that's how she got away with it. She just had the phone and she's just like snip, snip, snap, snap. I mean, who knows? But
yeah, a lot of people are arguing that maybe they let her get away with it because she's Martha Stewart.
Possible.
Yeah, I mean, that would never
possible.
happen in today's world, right?
Yeah, exactly. Somebody was a fan. Okay. All right, Blue Bloods, which I have never watched, but I popular series, Tom Selleck, Donnie Wahlberg, the whole crew. It's coming to its final episode. And it looks like Donnie Wahlberg, who plays this Blue Bloods, they're cops. It's a family of cops. He apparently he did some underhanded, unlawful things, and but he's doing it for a good cause. What's going on?
Yeah, well, he's justifying it by making it about a good cause right now. So, Blue Bloods has its final episode airing next week on Friday. And, one of the, what the show is known for are these dinner scenes that they do that are always where they debate whatever the story is that's going on at the time. And everybody sits around the dinner table and they have these discussions that are very important to the story. Well, Donnie, he grabs some props. Right, he grabbed like some of his uniforms, like he had his dress blue uniform, his regular uniform. He thought it'd be nice to put him up in the Wahlburgers, burger chain that he and his brothers have. But he found out that the dining room table and chairs were just kind of shoved into a storage area for the studio, and he went, "Oh, that can't be." So he has made arrangements. He is taking the family dinner table and chairs, and they are going to display them along with his uniforms at the various Wahlburgers locations around the country. And to justify this pilfering, borrowing, whatever you want to call it, fans will not only get a chance to sit at the table and take photos, but he wants to raffle off the dinner set with the proceeds going to the Detectives Endowment Association Widow and Children's Fund.
Okay,
I mean, kind of cool.
That's pretty a legit
cool.
deal. And I'm sure he didn't back a truck up in the middle of the night and just load it up. I'm sure he told some executive, "I'm taking those," and they're like, "Okay, Donnie."
Yeah. Hey,
right?
I got this idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure he's like, "Okay, Donnie, whatever you say." But that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool.
It is cool. It reminds me though, like whenever a series ends, stars always kind of angle to try to get a little something. Or like, my favorite is like when baseball stadiums are going to be torn down and players are jockeying to get certain things that they want.
Right.
Like Derek Jeter, when they tore down the old Yankee Stadium, he made a secret deal with all the guys that were in the locker room, like, all the attendants and stuff. He paid them all very handsomely to very quietly grab a famous sign from the locker room so that he could have it.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. Don't tell. Don't ask, don't tell. Where did that sign go?
Yeah,
I have no idea. I have no idea. Yeah.
Yep. But of course, he got the best. It was the sign that all the players saw as they walked out to the field that said, "Be a Yankee today."
Yeah. Oh, so cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
That's pretty cool.
Well,
That's pretty cool.
Let's move over to the streams and the theaters. It's only theaters today. You didn't get a chance to watch the streaming movie, but so we've got Y2K. But it's Y2K was kind of I lived through it. It wasn't as bad as everybody said, but this movie takes it in a different direction. What's going on?
Yeah, this movie wants to imagine that, bad things happened because they needed a storyline. And I'm just going to tell you right now, okay, this is not the greatest week ever for movies. It never is. The week after Thanksgiving traditionally is like trash dump week. And Y2K is a great example of it, okay? So the story is that it's these teens who sneak into a big party on New Year's Eve 1999. But when midnight strikes, the disasters we all imagined and we all feared kick in. And even worse. So like all the power goes out, all the electronics and all the computers
shut down.
Well,
right,
they decide to band together and take
Terminator Y2K, right? Yeah.
Yes. So it's like a horror comedy and it's not enough horror to really be all that scary. It's not that comedy enough to really be very, very, funny and entertaining. And I'll give them some credit. I mean, it's a big nostalgia trip, right? Like it's supposed to take you back for all those people who lived through the 90s and the early aughts, right? It's got all the music that you liked. It's got the Tamagotchis. It's got AOL Instant Messenger. It's got all those things
right,
that will kind of warm your heart. But the story isn't going to do it. Rachel Zegler, who's in the movie, is not going to warm up your heart at all. It's a movie that kind of feels like it's looking for a purpose. If it was more like Superbad, where it was just about these two teen kids and they're chasing after Rachel Zegler, who's like their dream girl.
Right.
I think it would have been a lot better, other than trying to kind of glom on this whole kind of horror aspect to it. I'm at 1.5 waffles.
Oh, that's too bad. We could party like it's 1999. I mean, right there, just Y2K. All right,
there.
in theaters. This next movie is Amy Adams, and it's called Night Witch. Only it's not witch. It's a B, so we won't say it. Just in case we offend anybody. Night Batch. No, it's Night Witch. It's, you figure it out. So she's a stay-at-home mom, but she's got a problem. It's a horror comedy. I'm just like, I'm trying to figure this out. Give me the rundown here.
Early on, this was supposed to be like an Oscar contender, and I watched it. I went, oh my God, who thought that was possible? Amy Adams, this stay-at-home mother, and it's wearing on her, right? It's hard to be a stay-at-home mother. And she's kind of going batty, not seeing her friends, feeling like she left her former life behind. Not really a big fan of all the moms that she sees at all the baby groups. But she's changing, my friends. She's becoming a little bit more animalistic. She can smell things she hasn't smelled before. And when she goes out at night, it appears that maybe she's becoming a dog.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Weird. Well, break it down for me.
Beyond weird.
Well, break it down for me here. What do you think?
Well, here's the deal. This is like one of those movies where you can see like all the hoity-toity people. They're like talking about, oh, it's this amazing symbolism of a woman becoming more protective of her little one, and some sort of statement about the outdated roles of men and women. But you know what? It's no good. It's not interesting. It's horribly told. You're trying to figure out what is like fantasy. Is she just delusional because she can't sleep? And why did Amy Adams say yes to this movie? She's so much better than the rest of this movie. And that's why I'm at half a waffle, because it just stinks.
Oh man, that's brutal. Okay. All right. Well, half a waffle. We got about 2 minutes here. And I know that I do want to talk about, because I just heard about this. I hadn't heard anything about it. But this new Star Wars show on Disney Plus, and I'm a Star Wars fan, Skeleton Crew, Jude Law. It's 4 kids are lost in the galaxy or something. Tell me about it.
Yeah. So it's these 4 kids who live on this very nice planet. I mean, it looks like the greatest suburbs of all of the greatest suburbs you've ever been in before. And, they're kind of misfits a little bit, right? The one boy, he's struggling with the loss of his mother, and he's a big dreamer. He doesn't really focus in on school. And one day he finds a spaceship that's buried out in the woods. And his friend and a couple other kids from school decide to go exploring, and they accidentally launch the ship into space. Now these 4 kids are flying through space, and of course they go to the most horrible of horrible places, a pirate port, where there is danger around every corner.
The most wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Right? That's right. And here's the thing. So I've only seen the first 2 episodes.
Okay.
And it's towards the end of the second episode where Mr. Jude Law shows up, who seems to be some sort of Jedi Knight that realizes that he might need to take care of these kids, but he also seems to want to use them to get out of this place.
Okay.
Because he knows they've got a spaceship and he doesn't. Okay, so,
right. Oh, you've got a spaceship. Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to like it, but I can't get into, like, it wants to be like Goonies in space, right?
Right.
Like it's going to be a kid's adventure. They're going to go on all these crazy, wild, things happening, and it doesn't seem to have like a lovability factor. Like I don't know if I really am bought into these kids yet. I mean, maybe it'll get better. Maybe Jude Law will bring something else to it. But right now, it just feels a little too childish.
Right.
And probably because I'm not the target audience.
Yeah, you're not
I
the
think
target.
they really honestly are trying to get kids into Star Wars, and they think that this is the way to do it. I'm at like 2 waffles, but I'm not there yet.
Well, surprisingly, Rotten Tomatoes says 95% on the tomato meter, and the popcorn meter, which is the audience, says 83. So maybe you aren't the target audience for this, but again, it's only a couple episodes. We'll have to see how this goes. We'll have to sit down and watch it, and we'll regroup on this later then, okay?
Hey, I'm ready to check it out again.
Yeah, no, I mean, we can do it. It'll be fun. All right, folks,
we're a few episodes to go.
We're out of time. We're out of time. We will see you guys on Monday. Be kind, love one another, live well. We'll see you then. Have a great weekend. I mean, it's Star Wars, so I can be a little flexible on this. And the other stuff, what was what was the Acolyte?
The Acolyte.
I know that
really a disaster.
Yeah, the tomato score and the popcorn meter, the critics and the audiences both just freaking hated it. So maybe this is an indication that it's okay? ? I mean, I don't know. I'd love to think that there's something out there that could keep the Star Wars universe alive.
Well, and it's a familiar theme, right? I mean, if you look at Star Wars, like the original Star Wars, it's a bunch of people who are a little naive. They don't know what they're getting into, and they grow into the roles and they grow into the story and they become the heroes they need to be. And maybe that's what's going to happen here too.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just discounting it too much because it's a bunch of little kids. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not as attached. I'm just not as attached right now.
Well, I appreciate the honesty on it. I haven't seen a single second of it yet, so I guess we'll see. A couple other things. Netflix Cold Case, the John Benet Ramsey thing. I know my wife was watching it. She said it was really good.
It is.
And we could talk about that next week maybe, and then Nora. So we got stuff to talk about next week, plus whatever comes out. How about that?
Oh, next week's going to be a huge week. I mean, you got Angelina Jolie's big Oscar movie, Maria, where she plays Maria Callas. You've got what else? The big Lord of the Rings animated film is going to be next week.
Okay.
That looks kind of cool. And there's some other streaming and everything. Like next week is the big Jamie Foxx Netflix streaming. Where he's going to tell the story about what really happened to him. When he had that medical emergency, and that's like half of it. I'm telling you, there's so much stuff being thrown out right now. Like, do they think that people really have time in December to watch all these things?
When do I have time?
We're all like shopping and trying to take care of our families and going to parties and stuff. Like, who's got enough time to sit around and watch a Ben Stiller Christmas movie?
Yeah.
Who does?
Or Jack Black's new thing that looks weird. I mean, I don't know.
Which, I mean, they look okay, but, there's only so much time in the day, man.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that 100%. I got Christmas movies to watch. I don't have time for your new stuff. All right, Willie, we'll see you next week, okay?
All right, see you then.
Folks, we're out of time. Thank you for coming on board. We will see you on Monday. Be kind, love one another, live well. Have a great weekend. We'll see you then.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.
Thank you.